The envelope sat on my kitchen table for 3 days before I opened it. It was not fear that kept me from looking. It was the knowledge that once I saw the number written there, I would have to choose between my pride and my body. And I had not asked anyone for help in 42 years. The surgeon had been clear. Without the procedure, the infection would continue to spread through the bone. I might lose mobility. I might lose more than that. But insurance would not cover what they called elective intervention. $5,000. Cash. 2 weeks before the surgery date. I had raised 2 children alone after their father left when they were small. I had worked double shifts at the hospital laundry for 18 years. My hands had scrubbed other people's blood from sheets. My back had bent over industrial washers. I had put both of my children through college without loans, without grants, without asking them to work while they studied. I had never once asked them to send money home. So when I finally called my son, I thought the conversation would be short. I thought he would understand without me having to explain. I thought the years I had spent raising him would speak for themselves. He said he would talk to his wife. That answer should have told me something. But I waited anyway. I sat at that table and I waited for 3 days. I did not yet understand what that answer meant. If you are still here, thank you for listening so patiently. My name is Emily. I am 67 now. Some memories do not come all at once. They return slowly, usually when someone is kind enough to listen. If you would like to hear the rest of the stories when they find their way back, you can stay with me here. And before we go on, tell me something quietly. Have you ever had to ask your children for something you thought they would give without asking? It was September when I made those calls. I remember because the magnolia tree outside my window in Durham was starting to drop its leaves. I had planted it the year my daughter was born. 31 years of watching it grow taller, while my knees got worse and my back started to curve inward. The tree had grown straight. I had not. My son called back 4 days later. Not 3. Not 5. 4. I had counted each one. He said they had just bought a boat. A real one. Not a small fishing boat. A cabin cruiser for the lake house. He said it was an investment. He used that word. Investment. He said maybe in a few months things would be different. He said the boat payments were high right now. He said I should look into payment plans with the hospital. I did not argue. I thanked him for considering it. I set the phone down carefully, so he would not hear it shake in my hand. I sat there for a long time after that call. I looked at the magnolia tree. I thought about the year I had planted it. My daughter had been 2 weeks old. I had dug the hole myself even though I was exhausted. Even though my body was still healing. I had wanted something beautiful to look at from the kitchen window. Something that would grow while she grew. Now that tree was 31 years old. And my daughter lived 2 hours away in Raleigh. I called her that same afternoon. I could not wait anymore. The surgery was 6 weeks away, and I only had $1,800 saved. She had always been the practical one. The one who planned everything 6 months in advance. The one who kept spreadsheets for grocery shopping. I thought she would understand numbers. I thought she would see the problem clearly and help me solve it. Her husband answered. He said she was at yoga. Hot yoga. He said it in a way that suggested I should know this. That I should know her schedule. I said I would call back. He asked what I needed. So I told him. I explained about the surgery. About the infection. About the $5,000. I kept my voice steady. I did not ask him directly. I just explained the situation. He was quiet for a long time. I could hear him breathing on the other end. I could hear a television in the background. Sports. Crowd noise. Then he said something I still hear when I am trying to fall asleep. He said a limp would teach me responsibility. The words came out carefully. Like he had thought about them before saying them. Like he had prepared this answer. He said I had worked my whole life without saving properly. He said this was a natural consequence of poor financial planning. He said his wife had worked very hard for their security. He said they had made sacrifices. He said they could not enable my mistakes. That word. Enable. Like I was asking for drug money. Like I had not spent 18 years washing blood and bile from hospital sheets. Like I had not raised 2 children on $23,000 a year. I did not know what to say. So I said nothing. I hung up the phone and I sat at that kitchen table, and I looked at my hands. They were 67 years old. The skin was thin. The veins stood out. The knuckles were swollen from arthritis. These hands had changed diapers, had braided hair, had signed permission slips and college applications and loan documents I had already paid off. These hands had never asked for anything back. I sat there for a long time. I thought about what it would feel like to walk with a cane, to need help getting into my own bathtub, to have to ask the neighbor boy to carry my groceries up the front steps. I thought about becoming the kind of old woman people help, because they have to, not because they want to. I had one person left to call, one more name in my phone, one more person who might say yes. My older sister had married well 30 years ago. She lived in Atlanta in a house with 6 bedrooms and a swimming pool. Her husband managed investments, other people's money. He was good at it. They took vacations twice a year. Italy, France. She sent me pictures of hotel rooms that cost more per night than I made in a week. When I called her, she laughed. Not cruel laughter. Not mean. Just surprise. Like I had told a joke she did not expect. Like I had asked her something impossible. She said I would manage. She said I always did. She said she had faith in me. She used those exact words. Faith in you. Then she said she had to go. They were hosting a dinner party. 20 people. She said the caterer had just arrived. I said okay. I said have a good time. I hung up. I did not cry. I had learned a long time ago that crying does not change anything. It just makes your face swell and your eyes hurt. I just sat there as the afternoon light came through the magnolia leaves and made patterns on the table. The same table where I had fed my children, where I had helped them with homework, where I had signed their college acceptance letters with a pen that barely worked because I could not afford a new one. The surgery was scheduled for 6 weeks out. The hospital had been clear. They needed the full amount 2 weeks before the procedure. No payment plans. No exceptions. If I could not pay, they would cancel the surgery and put me back on the waiting list. 6 more months. Maybe a year. With an infection spreading through bone. I started looking at my furniture. The couch I had bought used in 1987. The table where I was sitting. The television that still worked but only showed 3 channels. I called a second-hand store and asked what they might pay. The man laughed. He said furniture that old was not worth hauling away. That is when my brother came. I had not seen William in almost 2 years. He lived 4 hours away in a town outside Charlotte. One of those towns people drive through without stopping. Where the main street has more empty buildings than open ones. Where everyone knows everyone and strangers stand out. He worked at a lumber yard. He had worked there for 30 years. The same job. Measuring wood. Cutting orders. Loading trucks. He had never married. He lived in a small house he had bought with cash in 1989. 3 rooms. A garage bigger than the house. He showed up on a Saturday morning without calling first. Just appeared on my porch at 8 o'clock. He was standing there with a duffel bag in one hand and a thermos of coffee in the other. He looked older. His hair had gone completely gray. Not salt and pepper. Pure gray. His hands were rough and scarred from decades of handling wood and machinery. His knuckles were permanently darkened from sawdust and oil. He said he had heard. I did not ask how. Small families have their own way of passing information. Someone talks to someone who talks to someone else. The news travels. I let him inside. He set his duffel bag by the door. He sat at the table. He poured coffee from his thermos into 2 cups he found in my cabinet. He did not say much at first. That was his way. William had never been comfortable with words. He just drank his coffee and looked around the kitchen like he was remembering something. Like he was seeing it the way it used to be. Then he reached into his jacket pocket. Slowly. Like the movement hurt. He pulled out an envelope. Not like mine. His was wrinkled. Creased. Held together with a rubber band that had lost its elasticity. He set it on the table between us. He said he had sold his tools. I stared at him. I did not understand what he meant. I thought maybe he had sold a few things. A hammer. A level. Things he did not use anymore. He said it again. Slower. Like maybe I had not heard him correctly. He had sold his carpentry tools. The ones our father had given him in 1981. The full set. Professional grade. Table saw. Router. Planer. Jointer. Hand tools in their original wooden case. Everything. 40 years of tools. Gone. There was $800 in the envelope. I could not speak. I just kept looking at the envelope. Then at him. Then back at the envelope. My mind was trying to make sense of what he had just said. Trying to understand what he had done. He said it was not enough. He knew that. But it was what he had. I finally found my voice. It came out wrong. Too high. Too tight. I said he could not do that. Those tools were all he had left of our father. Dad had died in 1983. A heart attack at 59. Too young. He had given William those tools 2 years before he died. He had saved for them. Professional grade tools were expensive even then. He had given them to William on his 35th birthday. Had driven 4 hours to deliver them himself. William used them every weekend. Every single weekend for 40 years. He built furniture. Bookshelves for neighbors. Cabinets for the church. A crib for someone's grandbaby. He made things. Beautiful things. Things that lasted. Those tools were part of him. Part of who he was. I said all of this. I said he could not give those up. Not for $800. Not for me. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Calm. Decided. Already finished with the question. Like he had thought about it for a long time. And there was nothing left to discuss. He said I was his sister. That was all. Just those 4 words. I was his sister. Not, you need help. Not, it is the right thing to do. Not, I want to. Just you are my sister. Like that explained everything. Like that was the only reason that mattered. I started to cry then. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just tears running down my face while I sat there holding that envelope. It was heavy. Heavier than it should have been. Like the weight of 40 years was inside it. The money smelled like machine oil and sawdust. He stayed for 3 days. He did not ask if he could. He just stayed. He slept on the couch. He fixed the loose board on my back steps. The one I had been meaning to fix for 2 years. He tightened the hinges on my cabinet doors. He replaced a section of rotted trim around the kitchen window. He did not talk much. That was his way. But he was there. He was present in a way my children had not been present in years. On the 3rd morning he made eggs and toast. We ate in silence. Then he said he had to get back to work. He had Monday shift. Before he left, he told me something I did not understand until much later. He said our father had given him those tools in 1981. The same year I had started working double shifts to keep my kids in school. He said he had watched me do that. Had seen me leave for work at 5 in the morning. Had seen me come home at midnight. Had watched me do that for years. He said he had always wondered if he would have done the same. If he would have sacrificed that much for someone else. He said now he knew. Then he picked up his duffel bag and walked out to his truck. An old Ford. Older than my car. Rust on the fenders. I watched him drive away. I stood on that porch until I could not see his taillights anymore. Until the street was empty and quiet. I still needed more than $4,000. But I had $800 I did not have before. And I had something else. Something I had been avoiding seeing clearly. I had a clarity about what love actually looked like. I called my son that afternoon. I did not ask for money. Not directly. I just told him his uncle had sold his tools. I explained what those tools were. Where they came from. I described them in detail. The table saw. The router with 3 different bits. The hand tools in the wooden case our father had made himself. I explained how our father had saved for 2 years to buy that set. How he had worked overtime. How he had given them to William with his own hands. How William had kept them oiled and sharp for 40 years. How he had turned down offers from collectors who wanted to buy them. How people had offered him $1,200, $1,500, $2,000. How he had always said no. Until now. My son was quiet for a long time. I could hear him breathing. I could hear something in the background. His wife maybe. Asking who it was. Then he said he did not know. His voice was different. Smaller. Like he was young again. I said I knew he did not. He asked if I still needed help. I said I did. He sent a check for $3,000. It arrived 2 days later. No note. No letter. Just the check in a plain envelope. My daughter called the next week. She did not apologize. She did not explain. She just asked how much I still needed. I told her. She said she would send it. She did. $1,500. Overnight delivery. I had the surgery 5 weeks later. It went well. The infection cleared. The bone healed. I kept my leg. I kept my mobility. I walk without a cane now. I can climb stairs. I can carry my own groceries. I can kneel down to pick things up. But I think about those tools every single day. A year after the surgery I started looking. I drove to Charlotte. I went to every pawn shop. Every second-hand tool store. Every auction house within 50 miles. I showed them pictures I had found in old family photos. I described the markings. The manufacturer. The year. Some people remembered them. Some did not. I found the table saw first. In a shop near the highway. A small place. Narrow aisles. Dust everywhere. The owner was an old man who knew quality when he saw it. He did not want to sell it. He said it was the finest piece he had ever carried. He said people came from 3 counties to look at it. I paid him twice what he was asking. I did not negotiate. It took me 3 more months to find the rest. The router was in Greensboro. A young couple had bought it at an estate sale. They did not know what it was worth. I paid what they asked. The planer was in a barn outside Durham. A farmer had bought it planning to use it. He never had. I paid his price. The hand tools were scattered. Different shops. Different owners. I found 11 of the original 15. The other 4 were gone. Lost to wherever things go when they disappear completely. I rented a truck on a Sunday morning. I drove to William's house. For hours. I took back roads because I was afraid of the highway. Afraid something would shift in the truck bed. Afraid something would get damaged. When I got there, he was in his garage. The door was open. He was using a cheap electric saw. The kind you buy at a discount store. The kind that shakes when you push wood through it. The kind that makes rough cuts. I backed the truck up to his driveway. I got out. I told him to come look. He walked over slowly. His back was bent. More bent than it had been a year ago. He looked into the truck bed. At the tools arranged carefully. Wrapped in blankets. Tied down. He did not say anything. He just stood there with his hand on the tailgate. His shoulders started shaking. I thought something was wrong. Then I realized he was crying. I had never seen my brother cry before. Not at our father's funeral. Not at our mother's. Not ever. He helped me unload everything. We set the tools up in his garage exactly where they used to be. The table saw in the back corner. The router on the workbench. The hand tools in their case on the shelf. He ran his hand over the table saw. Slowly. Like he was making sure it was real. He checked the router bit. Still sharp. He opened the case of hand tools and touched each one. Like he was greeting old friends he thought were gone forever. Then he turned to me. His face was wet. He did not wipe it. He asked how I had done this. I told him I had been saving. Working extra shifts. Putting money aside. It was not entirely true. I had refinanced my house. I had taken out a small loan. But I did not tell him that. Some things a brother does not need to carry. He asked how much I had spent. I told him it did not matter. He shook his head. He said it mattered to him. He needed to know. So I told him the truth. I said he had given me $800 when I needed $5,000. I said I had spent $4,000 finding his tools again. I said now we were even. He looked at me for a long time. His eyes were red. His face was older than I remembered. When had he gotten so old? Then he smiled. It was the kind of smile that makes you realize how much a person has been holding inside. How much weight they have been carrying. He said we were not even. He said we would never be even. He said that was what family meant. We stood in that garage while the afternoon light came through the window. Outside, I could hear children playing in a neighbor's yard. A dog barking. The sound of someone mowing grass. Ordinary sounds. Regular life continuing while everything felt different. My brother picked up a chisel. One of the hand tools. He tested the edge with his thumb. Still sharp after all this time. He set it back down carefully. Gently. Like it might break if he was not careful. Then he asked if I wanted to stay for dinner. He said he did not have much. Just chicken and rice. But he would make enough for two. I said yes. We went inside. He cooked. I set the table. We ate slowly. We did not talk about the tools. We did not talk about the surgery. We talked about the magnolia tree. About the lumber yard. About whether the winter would come early this year. Small things. Easy things. Safe things. It was enough. I drove home that night with the windows down. The air was cool. Fall was coming. I thought about my children. About their boat. About their yoga classes and dinner parties and payment plans. I did not feel angry anymore. I just felt tired. And clear. Some people love you with words. Some people love you with money. Some people love you with what they cannot afford to lose. My brother had loved me with 40 years of memory and wood and steel. I never forgot that. And years later, when William got sick, I did not hesitate. The doctor said lymphoma. Stage 3. He would need treatment. Someone to stay with him. Someone to drive him to appointments. To cook his meals. To make sure he took his medicine. I took a leave from work. I moved into his small house outside Charlotte. I slept in the bedroom. He slept on the couch because he said the bedroom was mine now. I cooked his meals. I drove him to appointments in the city. 40 minutes each way. I sat with him on the hard days. The days when the treatment made him so sick he could not stand. He tried to tell me I did not have to. That he would be fine. That he could manage. I told him the same thing he had told me. You are my brother. That was all. Just those 4 words. He understood. He lived for 2 more years after the diagnosis. Good years mostly. The treatment worked for a while. He had time. We sat in his garage often. He would run his hands over those tools. Sometimes he would pick one up and just hold it. Not using it. Just holding it. Remembering. He died on a cold morning in March. I was there. holding his hand. He stopped breathing at 6:15. The sun was not up yet. At the funeral, my son and daughter came. They had not seen their uncle in years. Maybe 10 years. Maybe more. They stood by his casket and they cried. Real tears. Not polite tears. My daughter kept saying she wished she had known him better. My son said he seemed like a good man. He kept saying it. Like he was trying to convince himself of something. I did not say anything. I just thought about an envelope on a kitchen table. About $800 that smelled like sawdust. About a man who measured love in what he was willing to lose. After the service, after everyone left, I went back to his house. I sat in the garage. I looked at the tools arranged on the wall. Each one clean, oiled, sharp, ready to use. Waiting. I thought about selling them. Giving them to someone who would use them. A young carpenter. Someone who would appreciate them. But I could not. Instead, I locked the garage. I kept paying the property taxes on his house. I visit every few months. I sit in that space where he spent so many quiet hours making things. Building. Fixing. Creating. The tools are still there. Exactly where he left them. Sometimes I pick up the chisel. The one he tested that afternoon when I brought everything back. I hold it the way he did. I remember his smile. The way his shoulders had shaken. The sound of children playing outside while everything changed. I remember what it feels like when someone chooses you. Not because it is easy. Not because they have extra. Not because it makes sense. But because you are worth what they cannot afford to lose. My leg healed. I still walk without help. I can climb stairs. I can kneel down to pick things up. I can do everything the doctor said I might not be able to do. But that envelope is still in my drawer at home. Empty now. Still wrinkled. Still held together with the same rubber band that barely holds anymore. I keep it there because some things should not be forgotten. Some things should be held. Remembered. Honored quietly. Like tools in a garage that no one uses anymore. Like a brother who knew what mattered when it mattered most. Like love that costs everything and asks for nothing back.